Hello, Christian DeVries here, and I am coming to you in the Soccer Parent Lifestyle group. I am honored that Buford has allowed me to come and talk with you guys. Really, what I want to talk with you about is a lot of the questions and discussions that have come about as it relates to college recruiting and what it means for you as a college recruiting. I know you guys have questions, and these questions stem from, should I be playing ECNL, MLS next? Should I be playing high school soccer? When is the right time for me to start to get recruited? Is it too late for my son or daughter to be recruited? How do we reach out to college coaches? There's so many things that come into play when we're starting to talk about what it means to be a recruit student athlete at the college level. Just a brief background about myself. I've been a college coach for 27 years. I am currently still coaching college soccer in Phoenix, Arizona. I have coached at Division II, Division III, NAI, and now junior college levels. And I have contacts across the country at the Division I level. I chose not to go to the Division I level. That was just a choice on my part. I had more opportunities, but I decided to stay in these smaller schools and coach. So I've been around this college recruiting, and I've seen it change drastically over the last 25 years. In fact, I've done a talk that I call college recruiting over the last 20 years. What is the same and what is different? And what I want to start off with is just to share with you this simple thing. What has been the same and what is the most important thing about the college recruiting process? And that is, it's about building relationships. That's the single most important thing that you need to understand as parents, as players, that college recruiting is about building relationships. And so that's what we're going to try and touch on a little bit today is the idea of building relationships. Here's my frustration that I've seen really over the last 5 to 7 years that I've been a college coach in recruiting, and I've seen this transition happening over the last few years, that the focus has been on identification. If I'm going to get recruited, if my son or daughter are going to get recruited, it's all about how do I get them identified? And the resources that are being thrown at you, the information that's being given to you, the questions all stem from, quote, identification questions, right? Whenever I respond to something within Buford's group, it's about identification and how do I get identified? And so when we think about that aspect of things, I think that's broken. I think that way of getting recruited is the wrong way, because focusing on identifications, not focusing on building relationships. And here I am, year 27, and I still honestly believe that building relationships is the single most important thing in recruiting. It goes to the same for me going to recruiting my own student athletes. If I'm going to recruit athletes, it's how do I build relationships with them? You don't want to see a form letter coming from me. So why would I want to see a form letter coming from you in this recruiting process? And so I think that's one of the things that we want to address and talk about. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be, looking both down at my phone as well as talking with you guys. Just make sure if any questions are coming across that I can see those questions as they come across. And so feel free to answer, respond to any questions or write those questions in the actual comments, and I will get to those questions as we get going. So I talk about recruiting being broken. I think that this idea of focusing on identification is the broken process. Here's what I believe needs to happen in the recruiting process, and I hope parents and the kids will listen to me, because again, I'm speaking to you for my 27 years as actually being the college coach. And I think it all needs to start on one single foundation. And I think this is a single most important foundation you can have in terms of the recruiting process to eventually get identified. And that single first most important thing is understanding the college planning process. You have to really understand what it means to be a college soccer student athlete and how you're going to plan to become a college student athlete, and how you're going to look at the schools that are going to allow you to best position yourself to be a college student soccer player. So the college planning process is the single most important part, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as I go through the discussions this evening. Now, on top of that foundation of college soccer planning, I believe there are 4 key pillars, and these key pillars are not just my own thoughts. These are taken from college coaches that I've worked with, college coaches I emulate, college coaches I study, coaches that have mentored me. These pillars are designed off of those discussions directly with college coaches. Now, before I get into these 4 pillars, I want to make sure something's very clear. I know there are other people out there that are going to educate you on this process, and they each have their own beliefs and their own thought processes. What I hope you can take from tonight is taking what you might hear over here and what you might hear over here, and then what I'm going to share with you, and how do you put that together to put your son or daughter, or you as the athlete specifically, into the best position to be recruited. There are some people that talk about the idea, you need the broken leg test. And I believe the broken leg test is relevant if your goal is to be a student and then in college and play soccer. But if your goal is all about soccer, the broken leg test might not necessarily be what that's right for you. There are others that believe that we need to, if you want to go 100% soccer, let's focus on 100% soccer and let's find the right fit for you. And I believe in that idea. And I also believe there's this idea of how do we merge that together. And I think both of them stem from the college planning process. Now, on top of the college planning process, there's 4 pillars. Now, what you have to understand is these 4 pillars are not something that I magically made up. They are what I know to be true from being a college soccer coach for 27 years and talking to my colleagues and reading what my colleagues have posted out there. So as we talk about this idea, what are these 4 pillars? I think the first pillar, after understanding the college planning process, the first pillar is you need to understand the recruiting process and the roadmap to getting recruited. I'm a firm believer that when you're told that there's a checklist to get recruited, that causes stress and frustration. Because if you're not right on the right point on the checklist, then all of a sudden you get frustrated because I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be because I'm not hitting the checklist points. I believe it's checkpoints. I think that there's ideas that these are the different aspects of the recruiting process you need to understand. And each one has its special understanding. And that whether you're starting as a freshman or you start as a senior, you can start this process at either point. You're going to hit those checkpoints. The point is going to be is you're going to spend more time on those checkpoints when you're a freshman, and you might breeze through some of those checkpoints real quick as a senior because you don't have time to delve into them. So it's more about understanding the checkpoints that you need to go through and having this understanding the complete process and what it means to go through being recruited and how coaches go about recruiting themselves. Here's the one I get frustrated with. I need to be at ECNL, and all these coaches that are at ECNL. And you're absolutely right. There's a bunch of coaches that are at ECNL. I'm not gonna. I go to ECNL events myself. I 100% agree with that. Or there's a bunch of coaches that are at an MLS Next event or an E64. I get that. I understand that. But you realize the number of coaches there are literally less than 15 to 20% of the actual total coaches that are actually having coaching soccer programs across the country. So yes, there's a lot of coaches there, but it's a minor portion of the actual coaches that are out there and the programs that are out there for you to look at. So if you're being told you're missing out, you're not missing out. In fact, most of the people that when they're going to those events, they've already pre-identified kids that they're going to watch. And that's where you need to come in and understand that recruiting process. How do you get yourself on that coach's radar so they are watching you? But you don't have to be at ECNL. You don't have to be at MLS Next. Yes, you can recruit from high school. Yes, coaches do recruit from high school, but it's not even just that. Film is a great tool that we have, and understanding how to use film and leverage film is the greatest tool you can have, because that's how you can get in front of a college coach is through film. And how do we do that? I responded to one question earlier this week that talked about, can somebody get recruited straight out of high school and never playing club? Yes, you can. For anybody to say you can't is wrong. The issue is it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to do it, but it is possible. So I want you to understand that. So when you understand the recruiting roadmap, if you understand the checkpoints that you need to go through and understand what they really are and the time that you spend in those checkpoints, you're going to create opportunities. See, the ultimate goal of recruiting for you as the family is not to get identified. The ultimate goal for you is to create opportunities, and you create opportunities from developing relationships. I want to be able to get in front of the coaches that are going to match what I'm looking for as a student athlete. And those are the ones that are going to be best identified. If you're not a Division I caliber player, okay, if you're not a Division I caliber player and all you're doing is hoping that you go to an event and get identified by Division I coaches, it's not going to happen. Now, if you can come to terms with the level of player you're at, you've got good feedback from your coaches and the people around you that telling you what level you're at. Now you can identify those schools and get yourself in front of those schools. That's how you get identified. The next important piece to this pillar that we talk about is actually player development. Do you understand what it takes to play at the highest level or the level that you want to play at? Great article was written in the United Soccer Coaches Journal a few months ago, and it talked about that the players that we have coming up through the ranks now are no longer complete players. In other words, they're not meeting the physical demands that we're looking for as college coaches. They're not meeting the mental demands that we're looking for from as college soccer coaches. They're not meeting the soccer IQ and the technical, tactical aspects of the game. So your recruiting roadmap, your recruiting pathway, shall I say, needs to have strength and conditioning and skills development and soccer IQ built into what you're doing in order to get recruited, to understand what needs to be done to get recruited. That is so critical in this entire process, is that you understand it is about player development and all aspects of player development. The third pillar is what I like to call the mindset pillar, because I think this goes beyond sports psychology. I do believe that we are starting to understand that sports psychology is a critical piece in our development with our student athletes. I honestly believe we're starting to see that change happen. 15, 20 years ago, I was talking about sports psychology when it wasn't being talked about. Now we see that. But I want to talk about mindset, because I think mindset is about sports psychology, but it's also how am I thinking? What am I thinking? Why am I thinking what I'm thinking as it relates to me being a collegiate player? Or if your pathway is to go to the pros, what is it that mindset I needs to have? And so when I talk about mindset and we think about mindset as the pillar, do you have the recruiting mindset? Do you understand what it takes to be a recruiting student athlete and really position yourself that it's not about identification? Do you have that mindset and understand that? Because that's going to help you down the road. I believe mental health. We've seen it. We're seeing it on a consistent basis now. COVID exposed mental health as a major issue in our sports world. It wasn't ever identified before COVID. COVID brought it out. If there's one thing that was good about COVID, is it started to put some light on areas in terms of mental health and where we're at. And I think that's all part of our mindset and how we think and how we operate and how we judge ourselves is all part of that mindset. So are you being involved in understanding the mindset it takes to play at that level? As a parent, have you talked with your son or daughter about what that mindset looks like and what you should be addressing when you talk about mindset to be successful? And then beyond the mindset, this is where my passion lies, is I can go to any one of these college ID camps that I go to. I can go to showcases, and within the last month, I've spoke on 3 different panels at additional showcases talking about what it means. What do you need to know? Parents are asking questions. Kids are asking questions. And one of those common questions is, what are you looking for out of your student athlete? And almost over and over and over again, the number one response that comes from soccer coaches. And the funny thing is, the older the coaches get, the more accurate the statement I'm going to make is going to become, is they are looking for players of high character. Right? They're looking for players with great leadership. They're going to look for players that what is the value they're going to bring off the field as well as on the field. And it's not just about their talent. Your talent's important. Don't get me wrong. Your talent is 100% important, but you have to understand your character and your leadership skills that you have are equally important in the eyes of a college coach. Because at the end of the day, the actions and behaviors of 18 to 22-year-olds determine a coach's job. Yes, now winning and losing is important, right? But if I have kids of strong character, if I have kids with strong leadership skills, I have kids that are properly developed physically, if I have kids with the right mindset, I'm not going to have to worry about the knuckleheads that might cause problems and are going to make it difficult for me. So every coach, and then as coaches get older in the process, I'm guilty of this also. When I was early in my recruiting process, I looked for the absolute best player. And maybe if there's a little bit of character issues, I thought I could change that and I could fix that because I wanted the talent first. And I got burned 3 times by doing that. And that's when I started to think, really, I need to focus on what the character is and how am I going to go find the players of the greatest character. So I call that what we call an athlete of significance. And what do I mean by that is what athletes are going to bring the greatest value to my program. So when you start talking about this entire recruiting process, if you put a strong foundation of what I call that college planning, and I'm going to walk through that in just a second with you. If you have that strong foundation of what college planning is, then you can start to focus on the 4 pillars to becoming a complete player. And that's why I call it the complete player pathway, is that we have this foundation of college planning. We know what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the recruiting process properly. We're going to focus on being developed properly. We're going to work on our mindset so we can best position ourselves to be successful on the field. And we're going to have this idea of being an athlete of significance, of great value for a coach, and what we're going to bring to the table. I 100% believe that character is a skill that can be developed, and leadership is a skill that can be developed, just like passing and shooting and defending. They are skills that absolutely can be developed and should be developed in your process of trying to become a highly recruited student athlete. So when we take that and we understand those 5 things, the next thing you look for is who's mentoring you, who's talking to you. Okay. Who are the people that you're listening to? I learned early on, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I need to maybe move into a new room sometimes, right? Who has been where you want to go and can they mentor you in that process? I want to thank Buford because Buford is giving me the opportunity right now to speak to you guys, to mentor you guys. And I'm going to come into the group on a regular basis and just give you words of wisdom. We're going to lay out this plan, right, initially, but the whole idea is to come to you and give you guys insight onto what it means to be a recruited athlete and how coaches go about doing it, and ask the questions that are bothering you. Ask the questions on what needs to be done. I might disagree with what some people, but I also am going to agree with some people. And I think that when you start looking at the recruiting, you need to understand that your son or daughter is not the same as your neighbor's son or daughter. You as a player are not the same as your best friend. You each have different needs, you have different desires, you have different mentalities, and you need to approach this recruiting process through understanding what you are looking for and not compare yourself to somebody else, because the ultimate goal is to find the right fit for you. Again, remember when I said I didn't coach Division 1? It's not that I didn't have the opportunities, because I did. I felt my best fit as a coach was in smaller schools. I was at Division 2 programs. I was at Division 3 programs. I'm now at a junior college. I felt that those were the best place for me to mentor young men and women on their journey through college, because it might be more than just soccer. It's about college and everything else. So you are looking for the same thing. So what I want to show you, I'm going to do a little screen share here now in just a second. So let me set this up. I have put together what I call the Complete Player Pathway College Soccer Planner, and I'm going to put a link to that college soccer planner in the chat here in just a second when we get to that college planner. But this is where I think the groundwork starts. And I believe so much in this idea of this college soccer planning that if you get this piece right, the parts of identification become so much easier, because you're not just shooting an arrow into the ocean trying to spearfish something. You actually are casting the net to get what you want. And so when we talk about this college soccer planner, the college soccer planner that you're going to be able to access for free, we go into this planner and I want to show you some of the things that you should be asking questions on. Okay. If you haven't asked these questions, then you need to. This is where you need to actually start by asking these questions. And so we're talking about what level can you compete at? Okay, mom and dad, I want you to sit down with your son or daughter and have this conversation of what level can we play at. And then you need to talk to coaches and you need to get evaluations from coaches. And you know what? You need to watch it. Technology has been fantastic for us because we can now go and watch games online across the country. And you need to really ask yourself, if I want to be an outside back, can I do what that outside back's doing at the Division I level? Can I do what that outside back's doing at the Division II level? What is it that I need to work on and where do I fit on? The next, and this is where I talk about, this is really important because every one of you is different. Every single one of you is different on how you're going to approach this. And this is why you have to ask this question. What balance of academics and athletics am I looking for in my experience? Okay. How important is soccer over academics for you, or how important is academics over soccer for you? That plays a major, major role in how you're going to start to look at schools and put yourself positioned to be recruited by the right coaches. And so when I said the broken leg test, yes, I think the broken leg test works when your balance is geared more towards academics than it is athletics. But if your whole goal is geared towards athletics, the broken leg test is irrelevant. Because you want to play, and if you get hurt, your focus is what do I need to do to get playing again? And I might change schools to play again. I'm not necessarily going to stay at the same school if I'm going to play again. So I agree with some things that are said at some levels, but you have to do that. What size college and university you want to go to? A big question, right? And how important is the size of the school or university you want to be at? Some people love to be in the big schools. I've recruited kids to come play for me, and they just want to be in the big school. I've actually recruited kids, fantastic players, but they are looking for that smaller, intimate environment. What type of school do you want to attend is another question. Okay. So it's not just how big of a school. Do you want to be at a religious school? Do you want to be at a public school? Do you want to be at a liberal arts school? Do you want to be at a private school? Do you want to be at a junior college? Do you want to be, those are all questions that you need to ask that are really important. You know what? I had somebody say, but coach, I want to be an auto mechanic. I can't play soccer. Yeah, you can. You absolutely can play soccer. If you still want to play soccer and work to be an auto mechanic, you go to a community college, you go to a trade school that has those programs. I can tell you where we live, they're there. So you've got to look for that. What are the academic qualifications and do they align with the colleges you are considering? So what is your academic background? If you're a 3.2 GPA and you're looking at Stanford, it ain't going to happen, guys. You got to be realistic. You have to know what your academic standards. So have you sat down and had those discussions about what are my academic standards I have and how do they fit in with the school that I'm going to look at? So that is critical for you to be able to address. What type of degree do you want to pursue? I'm going to give you the horror stories right now. I have had kids that have reached out to me saying, Coach, I can't wait to come and play for your program. I am looking to be an engineer, and I know you have a great engineering program. I don't have an engineering program, right? So the reality is you've just talked to me about coming to my school and I don't have the program that you have. So if you're giving that information to me and I don't have the program, then I'm pretty sure you haven't really done your research for any school. If you really want to go into engineering, you need to look at the schools that have engineering programs. Now, that being said, I will tell you, I'm at, again, a community college right now in Phoenix, Arizona. We actually have a pre-engineering program, which is fantastic. I love when I get engineering students that they think that a junior college isn't the right fit for them, but financially we're a great fit for them. And I do have a pre-engineering program at my community college that can set them up for a 4-year program. So the point is, if you know what you're looking for, then you can start to search for that. And that's how you get yourself better prepared. How long will it take to complete your degree? Great question, right? What degree on? Gone are the days of the 4-year degree. Okay. Did you know the average college degree is now running about 5.2 years? Okay. It used to be 4 years. Now, can you get your degree in 4 years? Absolutely. You can. You just got to work at it. But I'm saying the length of getting a degree has expanded. And so as that length is expanded, that comes into consideration when we're looking at what we're trying to do, because it comes into factors. What geographic area do you see yourself living in 2 to 4 years? I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. In August, it's going to be 118 degrees when we're playing games. We learn to deal with it. I used to coach in Minnesota. Right now, Minnesota's still under snow, and I was playing games in Minnesota when it was 5 degrees. Okay. Is that something that's important to you? Understand the geographic area in which you want to be able to play and what you want to live for the next 2 to 4 years is important. Now, I'll tell you a story. I had a young lady that played for me. I recruited her out of Colorado. She came up to Minnesota and played with me in Minnesota. And we were a small town in Minnesota where I used to be at, town of 5,000, part of the University of Minnesota system. So a great academic institution. But she said that she was only going to stay there for her 4 years. She knew she'd only be there for her 4 years. Funny thing is, she married a football player for there, and she's now a teacher, and she's been there for the last 15 years. So, the geographic area is important that you ask yourself that, because you're trying to make connections and relationships that to help move you on. How important is the size of the city or the town you're in? That kind of goes with the school and the same questions. What are the student housing options? Is this an important piece for you? A lot of people don't talk about this or think about this. Some places have specific housing just for athletes, and you will room with all of your college students. Or maybe you want to be where you're rooming with other people. Or I'm at a place where we don't have housing. You have to actually be in an apartment that's off campus, or you're commuting to our school. We're to community college. But these are things that are often not thought about during your college planning process. And then when you actually get into identifying schools, or you get identified, it doesn't work for you because it doesn't fit what you were looking for. And then how comfortable do you feel moving away from home? Now, this is just the broad steps of questions in the college planning that we talk about that are critical. I'm going to show you some other things that we talk about in that whole college planning process that are important also. So let's go back into our college planner here, and we will share this with you. We talk about what I call power tips. Okay. What is it that you need to know about college admissions? See, here's the thing that I want to address, why I think this is so important. Okay. Everybody is focusing on the athletic side of the process. And if you focus on the athletic side of the process, that's where you get frustrated. If you focus on the college planning side of the process, because you have to understand, as a college coach, when I was at the best public liberal arts college in Minnesota, or I was at a Jesuit Catholic college in Alabama, I don't dictate the admissions requirements. The school does. So if you are really interested in my program, but you don't understand that you can't even get into my school, you're going to get frustrated. So what I want you guys as families to understand is understand all these things that come in before even the student athlete aspect of being recruited. What do you need to know about college admissions? 20 tips for making that wise college choice. Okay. The top 10 strengths and experiences colleges are looking for. I'm not talking about what the college soccer coach is looking for. I'm talking about what colleges are looking for. And then finally, what are some of those glossary and terms that we provide you? Now, one of the other things that we provide within this free platform, and everybody talks about it. And I have a college coaches database, and we provide you with access to every single college soccer coach in the country. I will give you access to their pages, to what their Instagram, what their Twitter handle might be, what their email address is, so you can do them. Now, right now, it is being updated because we update it quarterly. So it's not live today because it's being worked on, and hopefully we're live tomorrow. But we have this access to this database that you can be able to log in and get access to every single college coach that's out there. Now, the other thing I bring into the planner for you, as I think it's real important, is I do interviews with college coaches across the country throughout the entire year. So I bring you some of these interviews that you can listen to. The college coaches coming right into your living room. You can watch that. You can watch an interview with these 3 different coaches right in your living room. I do college coaches panels across the country. So these are some of our panels from last summer. I shared with you the college panel that we had recruiting the last 20 years, but then college panels that we've done across the country. And as I do new college panels this summer, we'll be doing those new college panels. The other thing that I really think is important, that besides just talking to coaches, understanding what I call are these ideas of significant conversations, topics on leadership and mindset, what it means to be that athlete, topics on the college recruiting process. Okay, so we have one-on-one interviews, topics on just going to college. Here's one that I'll share with you, and we'll have this interview with Denise more than once. I'll do this about once every 6 months. I do this interview with Denise, going to college for debt free. Denise can show you and teach you how to find the money and the resources to go to college debt free before soccer scholarships are even brought into discussions. So, again, that's a real significant conversation to have. And then we talk about how do we gain the competitive advantage. Nutrition is an incredible part of what we do. Strength and conditioning is an incredible part of what we do. So interviews with these individuals that really talk about this. So when I talk about you guys can have access to this college planner for free, we provide all this information. Finally, within the college planner, going live this next week is our community mastermind. So you are able to log in with families that are just like you and start asking questions. I will pop into that mastermind and give a teaching call. One of my coaches or my colleagues will pop in and give a teaching, but it's much like a Facebook group, but it's specifically within our ecosystem where we can share with you what it means to help you, guide you through that recruiting process. I'm so intentional about wanting to help families because I've heard so many things and read so many things that are just wrong. It frustrates me when I hear. Buford and I have talked a few times about this. I've got even some articles I'm writing for him, why college planning matters, that this college planner is free. Now, once you're into the college planner and you start to use that, if you're interested in the complete player pathway program, I'll be working with Buford, and we're going to come up with a special price just for anybody that's part of this group. But before I even get you into that, I want you to have access to this planner and using this information. Ask questions. If you have any questions that you've had up tonight, put them in this comment and I'll talk about those the next time I come on. Maybe I don't know if I'll be on next Sunday for sure, but when I come on again, we'll have those. I'll be able to answer those questions that you guys have. So again, thank you for taking your Easter evening to spend with me. I know people popped in and out. I just want to make sure you guys are getting the right information, and that you don't have to get scared about this recruiting process. You don't have to get frustrated about this recruiting process. You have to become intentional, and you start by becoming intentional with college soccer planning. And when you do that, I guarantee the pathway to getting recruited is going to be a lot less bumpy than it is now. And it doesn't matter when you're starting. If you are an 8th grader or 9th grader, or if you're a senior, you can still get started. I mean, the reality is I'm still recruiting people right now. So, again, thank you for stopping in tonight. I appreciate it. And I look forward to being with you guys in future discussions about the complete player pathway and the athlete of significance.